The movie begins in Charlestown, a neighborhood in Boston known for producing more bank robbers and armored car thieves than anywhere else in the world. This isn't just a profession here, it's a trade passed down through generations. We meet Doug McRae, the brains of a highly professional crew. Unlike most criminals, Doug is disciplined and meticulous. His best friend is James "Jem" Coughlin, a volatile and dangerous man who's already spent 9 years in prison and isn't afraid to go back. Together with their team, Glonsey, the getaway driver, and Desmond, the tech expert, they prepare for their latest hit. The crew arrives at a Cambridge bank disguised in terrifying skeleton masks. They move with military precision, instantly taking control of the lobby. While the others secure the floor, Doug heads for the vault. They don't just take the money, they take the hard drive for the security cameras and even douse the area in bleach to destroy any DNA evidence. However, things take a turn when Jem learns that the silent alarm was triggered. Panicking slightly, Jem decides to take a hostage to ensure their escape. He grabs the bank manager, a young woman named Claire, and drags her into their van. They dump her on a beach a few miles away, blindfolded but unharmed. Back at their hideout, the crew is on edge. Jem is paranoid because they found Claire's ID and realized they live in their neighborhood, Charlestown. If she saw something, a tattoo, a birthmark, or heard a specific voice, she could identify them. Jem wants to handle the situation, but Doug, wanting to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, tells Jem to stay away. He'll follow her himself to see what she knows. Meanwhile, FBI Special Agent Adam Frawley arrives on the scene. He's a shark who knows exactly how these Charlestown crews operate. He begins a methodical investigation, putting pressure on everyone in the neighborhood. Doug begins following Claire. He watches her at a laundromat, looking for any sign that she's talking to the feds. But when he sees how traumatized she is, shaking and barely able to function, he feels a pang of guilt. In a moment of impulse, he approaches her, pretending to be a regular guy. They start talking, and to Doug's surprise, they actually hit it off. He learns that Claire didn't see their faces, but she's haunted by the sound of one of the robbers' voices. Ironically, she finds comfort in Doug, the very man who orchestrated the trauma she's living through. As Doug and Claire start dating, Doug finds himself wanting a different life. He's tired of the cycle of violence and the shadow of his father, who is currently serving a life sentence in prison. He visits his father, Pat, expecting some form of connection, but Pat is cold and bitter, reminding Doug that in their world, you either die or end up behind bars. Back in the neighborhood, Fergie, the florist, the local crime boss who organizes the heists, gives the crew their next job. It's an armored car robbery. Doug wants out, but Fergie makes it clear that no one just quits. To make matters worse, Jem is becoming increasingly suspicious of Doug's frequent disappearances. He finds out Doug is seeing Claire and is furious, viewing it as a massive security risk. Despite his hesitations, Doug leads the crew into the next job. They dress as police officers to intercept an armored truck. The heist is intense. They use high-powered weapons and tactical maneuvers, but the FBI is already closing in. Frawley has been tracking their associates and is starting to piece the puzzle together. The crew manages to escape after a high-speed chase through the narrow streets of Boston, but the heat is higher than ever. Frawley successfully identifies the crew members through their associates, and now he just needs one mistake to put them away for good. Jem confronts Doug at a local diner. He tells Doug that he knows about the girl. He gives Doug a chilling choice. Either he ends things with Claire, or Jem will take care of it his own way. At the same time, Agent Frawley brings Claire in for questioning, showing her photos of Doug's crew. Doug is now trapped between the FBI, his psychopathic best friend, and the woman he's actually starting to love. Following the narrow escape from the armored car heist, the walls are closing in on Doug McRae. Agent Frawley is no longer guessing. He's certain that Doug and Jem are his men. He begins a psychological war, bugging their phones and harassing their associates. But the biggest threat isn't the FBI, it's the truth. Frawley brings Claire into the station and shows her a photo of the crew. While she doesn't recognize their masked faces, she notices a specific tattoo on a man's neck in a surveillance photo, a shamrock. This is the same tattoo Jem has. She begins to realize that the nice guy she's been dating might be the monster who kidnapped her. Doug realizes he needs to leave Boston forever. He asks Claire to run away with him, and for a moment she agrees. However, Frawley intercepts her and reveals Doug's true identity, showing her his criminal record and his connection to the men who traumatized her. Feeling betrayed, Claire cooperates with the FBI. When Doug calls her to finalize their escape plans, Frawley is standing right next to her, forcing her to lure Doug into a trap. But in a moment of internal conflict, Claire gives Doug a subtle warning over the phone, telling her she'll see him at the place with the sunny days, a reference to a conversation they had about a place where it never rains. Doug realizes the FBI is listening and hangs up. Before Doug can leave Boston, he has one last piece of business. He tracks down Fergie at his flower shop. Without saying a word, Doug executes the man who ruined his family and threatened the woman he loved. Now a fugitive, Doug makes a final secret call to Claire. He watches her from a distance as she finds a bag he buried in her community garden. Inside is a massive amount of cash from the Fenway heist and a note. Claire chooses not to turn the money over to the FBI. Instead, she uses it to refurbish the local hockey rink in memory of Doug's mother. The film ends with Doug living a quiet, solitary life in a small shack in Florida, looking out over the water. He's finally escaped the town, but he's left everything and everyone he ever cared about behind. As the sun sets, we realize that while he got his freedom, the cost was his soul and the only home he ever knew.